I was compelled to work with Laurie-Ann. We had a 90-minute session where I got to pick an expert's brain about what to do and how to do things, from how to have an intro to your speaker tab to on your website to about how to find people to speak to and really brainstorming things like that. So overall, it has really lit a fire underneath me to be able to go out there and speak and find things to help people.
Hello, all my Be in Demand listeners. This is Laurie-Ann. This is the show for coaches, consultants, and service providers who want to learn how to leverage speaking opportunities to get positioned as the expert, monetize their message, and attract the perfect clients. And today we're going to be talking about getting positioned as a person of authority. And if speaking has been on your list of things to do, but you keep putting it off, well, let's get down to it. And I'm going to give you several reasons why you're going to want to be rushing out to find the perfect events. So imagine that you're at an event sitting next to a brand photographer, a marketing VA, a health coach. You chat, you exchange business cards. Maybe you even start following each other on Instagram because that's the thing to do. But then the speaker comes out and they are also in the exact same field as your newfound Instagram friend. And you are in the market to hire somebody for this particular specialty. But when it comes time to hire somebody, who do you pick? This is a question that I ask my audience every time I'm up there talking about speaking. If you are sitting next to a health coach, for example, and the person who is speaking in the front of the room is also a health coach, who are you going to hire? 97% of the time, my audience raises their hand and says they're going to hire the person in the front of the room. Why is that? Because that person in the front of the room is automatically seen as the expert. So this is what we are going to be talking about today. Every time that you say no to speaking, I'll do it later. This won't work for me, for my clients, for my industry. You are passing up a beautiful opportunity to be that person of authority in the front of the room. Because you've heard me say multiple times, speaking is the fastest way to grow your business. So let's just talk about the psychology behind why that speaker is going to get hired. I want you to think back to a time when you were in an audience listening to a speaker. Did you want to hire them when they were done speaking? Did they make you think differently? Did they move you? And how did you look at that person that's in the front of the room? Do you think that they are just some Joe Schmo that, the meeting planner just kind of like pulled up there to say, hey, go talk about XYZ, or did you look at them as the expert, not even knowing much about their background yet? Well, whenever we see a speaker, we just assume that that speaker is an expert because they are leading the conversation. They are the ones who are presenting to the in-person or the virtual room. We also have instant trust, and that trust comes from whoever booked them. So let's just take an association or a chamber as an example, and they know who the person is who books. Like the chamber's always finding great speakers to bring in for their members to help them with their business. And chances are, like, you trust those people that are in the leadership position, that are in the chamber, that are in the association. So there's this shared trust. Like, if they trusted them to book them, well, chances are I can trust them. And the person that's in the front of the room, they're also speaking one to many. So while you might have been mingling one at a time, getting to know other people, the speaker's in the front of the room. And this has happened to me so many times. As you've heard me say, I'm a reformed, painfully shy girl. I would rather get up there and speak to everybody and then say at the end, and if you want to have a conversation with me, if you will have questions for me, I'll be in the back of the room. That way, the right people are actually coming to me to ask me questions, to have conversation. Like, to me, that was actually easier than going to a networking event and having this weird conversation with people. It just never felt right. And I will admit, like way back then, I didn't quite know how to feel comfortable networking, which now I feel like I really do. But at the same time, you can have great conversations at a networking event, and maybe you have 3 or 4 great conversations compared to the speaker who is speaking to the entire room. So that is a beautiful one to many. The important thing that I want you to take away is that you get automatic credibility. And that automatic credibility, it's priceless. Because if you're trying to build your credibility online, well, post after post after post, well, how many people are actually reading them versus being in an in-person or virtual room listening to you? And here's the other problem with, going to these events saying like, this is how I get clients by networking. If you're always just another attendee, you're blending in. And being good at what you do isn't enough because people need to see you, interpret you, have a perspective that you are the expert, and then to hear you share your knowledge, your expertise, your thought leadership. That is what is really going to draw in the right people. When I was speaking in leadership, I was the big speaker for the Fort Lauderdale's, like their very first opening meeting for the year. Now, I was down in the Florida area for a while, so I saw what the following month's speaker was going to be talking about. I didn't know who the speaker was, but I was very interested in the topic. So I showed up for this breakfast meeting, sat down at a random table, and a couple of the people just turned to me and said, "You look awfully familiar. Did you speak here last month?" And I said, "Yes, I did." I mean, I was flattered that he remembered. And he said, "Wow, we've never had a speaker show up for another meeting." I'm sure that I left a lasting impression on him, not just from my speech, but the fact that I was there again. And that is another way that you build relationships. Let's just dive into a little bit more about networking. I mean, networking is slow. You're talking to a few people at a time, or I remember going to networking events. And I remember this one realtor, and she had a stack of business cards, and she would actually budge into conversations and just pass out her cards to everybody that was standing around, and then walk away and move to the next group. All she was doing was passing out her cards. And I just remember all of us looking at each other, looking at our business card, and later on, I just ripped it up. If I was in the market for buying or selling a house, she's the last person that I'm going to actually call because I didn't feel like she really cared. So let's just take this from the audience's perspective. Those prospects that are in the audience that are in the market for what the speaker has, their potential clients, the people that are in the audience, they're looking at that speaker. They're looking for confidence. And if they see that confidence, if they see the qualities that they want in a coach, a consultant, a service provider, they're going to sign up for that call. They're going to reach out to that speaker. So speaking really removes the competition. You are no longer one of many business coaches, for example, that somebody might be interviewing. You become the only one. You become that only choice because you stand out. And remember what I've said in the past, that the people who are in the room have already raised their hand and said yes to spending time with you because they have the problem that you solve. They're interested in the topic that you're going to be speaking on, or they are predicting that they're going to have this problem where they're going to need it solved, that the problem that you solve, by the way, in the near future. So everybody that's in your audience is a potential client, is a potential prospect. So we really want to get you in front of the room, not just somebody who is sitting in the audience taking notes. All right, so have I convinced you yet? So you're probably wondering, all right, fine, Laurie-Ann, how do I get in front of the room? How do I get booked? And here's the good news. You don't have to be a professional speaker to leverage speaking for your business growth. You just need to start putting yourself out there in front of the right people. getting into the right rooms. So I'm going to suggest that you listen to episode 262, and it's how to use my warm market strategy to get booked, especially if you're just starting out. But if you've done some speaking in the past and you're looking to do more speaking, definitely go listen to this because I want you to use your warm market to help you get into the right rooms, to help you get booked, to let other people know that you are a speaker and you are available to be booked. Something that's really overlooked, and a lot of times when people tell me, well, I want to get booked to speak, and I say, like, start local. They roll their eyes like, no, the local people don't have budgets for speakers. I can't get paid. Well, remember, you're a coach, you're a consultant, you're a service provider. You're getting paid oodles of money on the back end. So let's look at that and quit worrying about the paycheck that you're getting for showing up that day. I'm such a fan of speaking for no fee is because I know from personal experience how much money you can make on the back end events, of those events that you spoke at for 30, 45, 60 minutes. Is it worth your time? I think so. So start small, start with some local events. Think of the places that you already attend. Think of also creating your own stage. That can be on IG, that can be over on Facebook or LinkedIn. You can create videos, you can do some sort of live streaming, stories. Find a stage where you can show up consistently. That's one. Number two is if you're just starting out, you don't need to have some big signature talk because you're going to use that as an excuse. I don't have my signature talk done yet, so I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm not going to pitch myself to get booked. I'm not going to reach out and use my warm market strategy. I just want you to start sharing your message so that you get seen as the expert and pitch yourself. That's number three. Pitch yourself. Stop waiting for an invite and reach out. With over 20,000 speaking events that are happening globally, and remember, speaking needs to be redefined, stages needs to be redefined. There are so many events that aren't even included in that 20,000. Podcasts, doing IG lives with other professionals. People are always looking for speakers. You are going to make somebody's day by reaching out. And especially if you start using that warm market strategy, if you get a referral from somebody, if you get a former colleague, a friend, somebody that's part of an association with you who can make a warm introduction to somebody else who's looking for a speaker, all the better. Your chances of getting booked for that event are so much greater. Okay, and the last thing that I want to share with you is if speaking isn't part of your strategy yet, you're making sales harder than it needs to be. So, attention everybody who doesn't like sales calls because people trust those speakers. If they are booking a call with you, chances are they're going to hire you. They're actually going to be convincing you why you are the person who should take them on as a client. And if you doubt that, it has happened to me so many times, all because I was that person in the front of the room. I was the book speaker. So here's some good news about getting started in speaking. You don't need years of experience. You just need a strategy that you do on repeat. If you've heard me talk about the daily vitamin, you want to do the daily vitamin. Reach out to somebody once a day, connect with somebody, leave a voicemail, send an email. Remember to be top of mind. You don't have to have some giant following on social. Just be confident. Be really clear with your message also, and just be out there to be a person of service, sharing your tips, sharing your stories, sharing your messages, sharing case studies. Just start sharing and giving information, helping your ideal people out in the world. And you don't need to wait for permission. Build your own stage. Build your own stage, get started because people, meeting planners, conference organizers, they're going to see that. They're going to be checking you out on social. You don't need those fancy speaker reels because meeting planners know that a speaker reel is all your best stuff. It's great. It's a great highlighted commercial, but if you don't have all of those assets to make that video, Don't let that stop you. Just get started today. And if you've done any speaking before and you feel like, oh, I'm a little rusty, it's been a little while, it is like a muscle. It's a muscle that you have to keep using. Sharpen the saw, as Stephen Covey would say. And if you've never spoken it before in front of an audience, it might be a little nerve wracking, but don't worry. Go in there with the attitude and the mindset of, I am just going to serve this audience. I am going to love on them and they will fall in love with you. So, what's your next step? I would book a call with me. If you are tired of blending in, let's build your strategy to get seen, booked, and paid on the front end and also the back end, selling from the stage in a way that feels so good and not salesy. And if you're not sure where to start, that's exactly what we will figure out together. And if you're still thinking, yeah, but what if this doesn't work for me? What if this doesn't work for my kind of clients or my industry? Well, let's talk and I will show you how to make sure that it does work for you. But either way, stop waiting because your audience is waiting. And you can book that call at speakandstandout.com/speaker success. And that link will be down below. And I look forward to learning more about you, your business, and how speaking can change things. So until next time, I want you to be in demand.